Hey there, professionals. Welcome to another free business English video lesson. My name's Grant. I'm an award-winning business coach, and my job is to help you become the best English communicator possible. In this video, we are going to look at some really common mistakes that English learners make when they're writing and sending business emails. These mistakes can make your emails sound unnatural, unclear, or even a little bit rude, so you definitely want to avoid these. We'll start by looking at an example email that contains some of these mistakes, then we'll go step by step explaining why these mistakes are wrong, and more importantly, how you can fix them to make your emails sound clear, correct, and professional. Let's look at the example. So here's our example. Hello, Mr. Park. I am Grant. We met at the tech conference last weekend. How are you? You said you'd be interested in learning more about Onward Tech's products, so I thought I would email you to set up a short Zoom meeting. Here's a link to my scheduling calendar. Select whatever time works best for you as soon as possible. I'm waiting for your reply. Thank you. Have a great day, Grant. Alright, so you might have noticed some of the phrases are awkward here. These are the 4 mistakes that we're going to focus on. First, introducing yourself by saying I am and then your name. Asking the question, how are you? Using the phrase as soon as possible. And finally, saying that you're waiting for something. You're waiting for their reply. All of these are incorrect, and in this video, you'll learn how to correct them. Let's start with I am and then your name. Saying I am with your name in a written message is a little bit weird because usually people use I am and then their name if they're meeting face-to-face or on a Zoom or Skype call. But either way, you would only use this if you can actually see someone's face. So if you're meeting someone face-to-face, you can totally say I am and then your name. But for written communication, it's better to either use this is with your name or my name is with your name. You should use this is if you've already had some contact or communication with this person before. So maybe you met them in person, but you're sending them an email for the first time. And you want to use my name is if you have never communicated with this person before. So when you are first initiating contact with maybe a new customer or a new business partner, somebody you've never communicated with before, you can start your message by saying my name is and then your name. And 2 extra tips here. First, you generally only have to introduce yourself once. Some of my Korean clients, they introduce themselves at the beginning of every message they send me, but I already know who they are. You don't need to introduce yourself again. You would do that in your very first message when you first start communication with someone, and for your later messages, you can just immediately explain the content of your message, and then you can give your name at the end. You don't have to introduce yourself at the start of every new message. And also, for SNS profiles like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, things where people can clearly see your face and your name, you don't necessarily have to introduce yourself. It's okay to just immediately begin the content of your message. Next is asking the question, how are you? Now, this is friendly and it is totally fine in face-to-face situations, but in messages and emails, it can be a little bit odd because it's like you're asking a question and the recipient of your message, they might be wondering, should I actually answer? Should I ask them how they are? It's just a little bit unnatural and a little bit inefficient. So when you greet someone in an email or message, it's actually a little bit better to make a statement instead of asking a question. So instead of asking the question, how are you? You could make the statement, I hope you're doing well. And instead of how is your week going, you could say, I hope you're having a great week so far. Those are much more natural. Now let's talk about as soon as possible. If you don't use this correctly, it can make your message sound very pushy and impatient, like you're really putting pressure on the person you're messaging, and usually you don't want that. The reason for this is that when you use the phrase as soon as possible, that means that the situation is very urgent. Something needs to happen immediately. So you only want to use this phrase in urgent situations when the recipient needs to do something right now. Here's an example of a time you could use the phrase as soon as possible. Let's say you have a giant, really important report that's due at the end of the day. You have to get it done, and you need some information from the colleagues on your team. In this case, you could send a message like this: please send me your section of the report as soon as possible. That would be appropriate. That would be appropriate in this situation. But for situations that are not urgent, you can just totally remove this phrase. You don't need it, or you could replace it with a few possibilities. You could replace it with "at your earliest convenience" or "whenever is convenient for you." These sound a lot more polite and a lot less pushy. For example, please send your responses to these questions at your earliest convenience. Thank you. Much better. Another possible replacement would be a deadline. You could simply give the deadline for the message when you really need that information, and if necessary, maybe a reason why that deadline exists. For example, please send me your responses to these questions by next Friday, so I have time to include them in the report. Thanks. And finally, "I'm waiting for your reply" sounds pretty unprofessional and impatient. It sounds like you're sitting at your computer, annoyed, wondering why this person is taking so long to reply to you. That's not the impression you want to make. So to fix this, you can completely remove the phrase from the message. It's not really an essential sentence. Or you could replace it with "looking forward to," and then whatever the next step in this communication or this relationship would be. That is a much more polite way to end the message. So instead of saying you're waiting for their reply, you could simply say you're looking forward to meeting them, or looking forward to hearing their opinion, or whatever would come next. So now let's look at a correct version of our email. "Hello, Mr. Park. This is Grant Sunby." Because we've met him before, but this is the first time we're messaging him. "We met at the tech conference last weekend. I hope you're having a great week so far." A statement, not a question. "You said you'd be interested in learning more about Onward Tech's products, so I thought I would email you to set up a short Zoom meeting. Here's a link to my scheduling calendar. Select whatever time works best for you." And we completely removed "as soon as possible" because this is not an urgent situation. "Looking forward to meeting with you." Much more polite than "I'm waiting for your reply." Thank you, have a great day, Grant. So in summary, you want to use "this is" if you're messaging someone for the first time, but you've communicated with them in some way before. You want to use "my name is" if your message is the first time you've ever communicated with a person. You want to use statements instead of questions in your greeting, so not "how was your weekend?" You can say "I hope you had a great weekend," and only use "as soon as possible" in urgent situations. For situations that aren't urgent, you can use "at your earliest convenience" or "by a deadline," and maybe give a reason if you want to. Finally, a great way to end an email is by saying "looking forward to whatever will come next." That's a lot better than "I'm waiting for your reply." That is all for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope it was helpful. If you haven't done so, you should definitely hit that subscribe button before you leave so you can keep getting these videos and becoming a better, more confident English communicator. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.